It is a very special pleasure to have this young lady on the show here on Channel 5. She's appearing at the Sands Hotel, Helen Reddy. Welcome.
Thank you.
And it's such a pleasure to have you in Las Vegas, which I know this is not your first time here.
No, not at all. I've been coming here for many, many years.
And have you always been treated well and great audiences?
Oh, yes, always.
But you wouldn't want to live here.
I couldn't deal with the climate. No,
desert.
It's too similar to Australia, actually. I suffered a great deal with hay fever and asthma and all kinds of allergies when I lived in Australia.
I would have never thought that, Helen.
Yeah, dust is what I'm allergic to, so
well,
I can handle heat, but it's got to be humid.
Really?
Mm.
But Australia has this image of tranquil beaches and ocean and glorious climate. That's always what I've thought of Australia.
But it is mostly desert. It's a very dry country.
Is that right?
Mm.
Phenomenal. How often do you get home? Actually, you're a U.S. citizen, so...
Right. I get down there, I'd say, at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going down again the end of October, November. Sort of a delayed honeymoon. I got married 8 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very
and
nice.
My bridegroom, his mother is from New Zealand. She was a war bride, and he's never been there. So he's got aunts and uncles and cousins he's never met, and I would like him to meet my family in Australia, so we're going to do a kind of South Pacific swing.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Where were you married?
We were married in Los Angeles.
And you live there?
Yeah.
Where, did you say Brentwood?
Right.
And how long have you been in L.A.?
I've been living in L.A. since '68.
Really?
Mm.
Well, L.A. is one of my favorites, and I always, Captain and Tennille, I told you, were just on, and I was talking about their L.A. experiences and kind of the good and bad side of L.A. Do you have is there a good and bad side to it for you, or not?
Well, of course, I don't like the smog. Yeah. Nobody likes the smog. But apart from that, there's a wonderful climate in L.A., and it's very convenient, I think. Right. I like it.
Well, you were just, you appeared on the Country Music Awards, which
yes.
is one of my favorites, and that was in L.A.
Right.
I don't know why it wasn't in Nashville, but anyway, we were talking about Willie Nelson.
Mm.
And Willie gave you a big smooch there.
He certainly did, right on the lips, on camera.
On national TV.
And we just met.
Well, that's got to be conducive of Willie Nelson. He really is a big favorite, and he appears at Caesar's Palace, as you know, a great deal.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Willie's.
Well, there are many, and the album Stardust is one of your favorites.
Yes, I've worn that copy out.
In your show, you do some country tunes.
Yeah, I do a couple of country songs.
Delta Dawn is...
Delta Dawn, of course.
You have to do that one. Everybody loves that.
Couldn't not do that.
That was a crossover, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, I think so much of music. No, it's really hard to bag music, to say this song is a country song or this song is a folk song, because music's such a hybrid now.
Mm-hmm. In your days in New York, where when you first came to this country, that's where you were, right?
Mm-hmm.
What occurred there? What took place? Was that where you were breaking in the business, or you were getting to become famous? What occurred there?
Well, actually, the reason I was in New York was because I came to the States as the result of winning a contest, and
A contest?
A contest, a talent contest.
How interesting.
And the first prize was a trip to New York and a recording contract in the United States. And
I never thought those things really happened.
Well, they don't.
But this time it did.
They don't. Well, I thought they did too. Looking back, I guess I was rather naive. But I got to New York, and somebody from the sales department in the record company took me to lunch. And we just chatted in general. And at the end of the lunch, he said, "Well, have a nice time while you're here in New York, dear, and do give us a call and say goodbye before you go back."
Oh no.
And I said, "Well, wait a minute. What about the recording contract?" And he said, "Oh, no, you must have misunderstood." He said, there was no recording contract. He said the first prize was an audition for a recording contract. And I said, "Well, okay, when do I audition?" He said, "Oh, that won't be necessary. They sent us a tape of your voice from Australia, and you sing very nicely, dear, but what we're really looking for is a male group." And I'd learned several years later that there had never been any tape. They had just given me the brush off. So be wary when you enter contests.
Well, was this promoted in Australia?
Yes.
Or promoted outside the U.S.?
Well, it was run on an Australian TV station, but it was sponsored by Pan Am and
How interesting.
This American Record Company and, of course, the Australian TV station.
The point of it is, if it hadn't happened, who knows if Helen Reddy would be where she is now. So,
Well, I'd have gotten to the States one way or another. I was very determined to come here.
and I Am Woman, when was that written?
I wrote that song, well, actually, it was written off and on over a period of 18 months. What I now refer to as the first draft of the song was on my first album. And Mike Frankovich was making a women's lib comedy, or so it was advertised at the time, and he was looking for a song to use as the theme song, and they wanted to use I Am Woman as the theme, so we decided to put it out as a single. It was too short. So I wrote an extra verse, added a third verse, and we re-recorded it, and that was the version that's on my third album, and that's the version that became a hit. But the song itself was around for 1.5 years before it...
As a single or from an album?
No, it was an album cut.
Isn't that fascinating? But wasn't that the real big one?
It's not my biggest hit. Angie Baby was the biggest seller. But I Am Woman made the difference in the sense that we couldn't get any airplay. The radio stations simply wouldn't play it. I had so many disc jockeys would say to me, "Oh, I hate that record. But you know, it's a funny thing, my wife loves it."
Oh.
And I went on television and sang the song. If any TV show that would have me on that had music, I went on and I sang I Am Woman 19 times on television. And we kind of forced radio play. Women would start calling up the stations and requesting it, and eventually they just had to play it.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Helen. Helen says, just before we go on, she says, "Dennis, this is August the 26th, Women's Equality Day." And I went, "Oh, yeah, of course." But in line with your song and with your activities with the women's movement, it's unique that you would know that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of women do, but that date is when the women got the right to vote in the U.S.
That's right. August 26, 1920 was the date that women got the right to vote.
How do you know this?
Well, I know this because of my involvement in the women's movement, you know, and it's interesting to go back and read what was going on at the time in relation to the arguments that they give about women's rights now. One of the arguments against women giving the vote was that it would split up the family.
Oh,
they said that, you know, if a woman votes differently from her husband, then it's going to cause a breakup of the marriage. And if she votes the same as her husband, well, he's already representing her at the polls. So therefore, there was no need to give her a vote. So you can see how ridiculous that argument is. And I feel the same way about some of the arguments they give today about the Equal Rights Amendment.